and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you how to make these yarn braids to add on to your Gnome Towel Topper. The Gnome Towel Topper is a free crochet pattern on my website. I also have a complete video tutorial if you're interested in learning how to make this fun and super cute towel topper. But today we're just going to be adding on these braids so that Mr. Gnome can have a Mrs. Gnome. If you're interested in the free written pattern instructions for my standard Gnome Towel Topper, I will have a link below in the description. I will also have a link below in the description to take you to the written pattern instructions as well as photos for the braids. And I will also have a link for the 3-inch rings that you will use for your towel topper if you're making them. This is going to be a very simple little project. We don't need very much yarn. You're going to want a contrasting color for your braid, and you're going to need also the same color that you used for your hat in just a small amount. You're also going to need a size H or a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook, as well as a tapestry needle so that you can sew those braids inside your hat. So no special tools needed for this little project, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm just using some cotton yarn. I love this cotton yarn, and I'm just going to be making a small base of single crochet stitches, and that base is going to be where I add my braid yarn because I'm going to be adding that as fringe to these single crochet stitches. So to start out with, I'm just going to be chaining 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain to the end. So just one row of single crochet stitches, and that's it for that base. And you want that base to be the same color as the hat that you made, because you want to sew this to the inside of your hat, and you want it to be in the same color, so it'll be less visible, easier to disguise. So I have 6 single crochet stitches for that row. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off, and we will add our fringe to that base. So just leave a longer tail, pull that through, and now we can weave in that remaining end. We're not going to need that to sew. Now we're going to cut some long lengths of contrasting yarn. So this yarn is going to be the color of your braid, and we're going to cut 18 pieces of yarn approximately 19 inches long. That will end up giving you a braid that's about 6 inches or so long, including the base, once you've braided the yarn and sewn that inside your hat. So if you want your braid to be longer than that, just, cut yours longer. You can make it shorter as well. But you're going to need 18 pieces. Once you have your 18 pieces, you're going to take 3 strands of that yarn, and you want to make sure that the ends are even with each other. And we're going to add these as fringe onto that base. So I'm going to take my crochet hook and I'm going to insert it in that first stitch. I'm going to fold those long lengths of yarn in half and grab it in about the middle, so right at that fold, and then pull those strands through, make a loop, and then pull those strands through that loop. Tighten, and I've just created a fringe. And you're going to do that for all of those 6 stitches, 3 strands per stitch. So I've got 3 of those long lengths of yarn, fold it in half, insert my hook into the next stitch, pull through at the fold, pull up a loop, push the ends of the yarn through that loop, and then gently tighten. And just repeat that for all of those strands. So I've added all of my long yarn strands to my base. So you can see here I have some nice long strands of yarn as fringe, and now we're ready to braid it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to separate these yarn strands into 3 different sections in order to braid. Now, each of these stitches, I use 3 lengths of yarn. So I actually end up with 6 strands for every stitch. So I want to separate out 12 strands for each section. So that will be 2 of my fringes will equal 12 strands of yarn. So I'm just going to separate those out into 3 sections. And I'm ready to begin braiding. And for those of you who braid hair, it's the same thing. We're just going to be bringing over one of the ends and then folding over the other end into the middle, and then bringing this one over. And we want to tighten that as we go. So we're just going to be gently tugging on those braids to keep them even, but to tighten them up, so we want them nice and tight braid. And then just continue braiding the strands, continuing to keep nice tight braid as we move on down. And if it makes it easier, you can place something heavy on the top part to keep it stable instead of having to hold it like I'm doing here. Once we get to the bottom of our braid and we're ready to tie that off, you're going to take a length of your contrasting color, your hat color, and we're just going to knot that off. I'm actually going to do that on the back side of my braid. So I'm just going to tie a knot. And then form a bow on the front side. Trim your ends. And then you can go ahead and trim the end now, or you can wait until you finish the second braid so you can match the length to each other. So you're just going to repeat those steps for your second braid and then we'll be ready to sew those to the inside of the hat. So I'm going to get that long length of yarn on my needle that I had left from my base, and I'm going to just insert that into the inside of my hat. And I'm going to place that braid where I want it, right next to that nose. You want those braids pretty close. And then on the inside of your hat, you can see here that I'm going to be able to make that pretty invisible because I have that base the same color, and the braid is sitting right next to that nose that I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew this braid to the inside of the hat, and I'm just going to be using that foundation chain from that base, that loop that's left over, and I'm going to be picking up loops from inside that hat, not going all the way through. I don't want to push my needle all the way through the hat because I want to disguise this as much as possible, so I'm going to keep all the stitches on the inside. So I'm just going to pick up different loops and just make sure that this braid is securely attached to the inside. Once you feel that the braid is secure, you can go ahead and weave in that end. Look how cute that is. So you're just going to repeat those steps for the other side, making sure that your braids are even, and we'll be ready to trim the ends of the braid. I've got the braids added to the hat, and now I'm ready to go ahead and make sure that the ends of the braids are even. So just trim. Trim the bottom of your braids, and you have a cute little girl spring gnome towel topper. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. Thanks so much for being with me. As always, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss a new video. You can find all of my free patterns and tutorials at nanascraftyhome.com. And while you're there, remember to subscribe to my newsletter so you never miss out on a new pattern release. Thanks everyone. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.